Hello there and welcome to this presentation, and today we are going to use Parabuild to create a portal frame right from scratch. I'm Morris Dimba and let's get started right away. If you take a look on the screen right here, you can see I'm already on Parabuild modeling tab, and this is where you get all the modeling tools under Parabuild steel detailing. Now the first thing we are going to do is to create a grid line. Like in the case, if you start building a building or a structure on site, the first thing you start with is creating the foundation and defining all the foundations. Now, in here we are starting with the grid line and define our measurements within the grid lines. So when we go to placement of our columns and the rafters, will be guided by the positions and the dimensions of the grid line. Now let's go and define our grid line. Then after creating the grid lines, we'll go straight and start modifying or creating or defining our levels. So our levels here are 0, 0, 0 level, eave, and apex height. Now let's get started, and by double clicking on the grid line, on the grid tab right there. So in here you can see we have grid line in X direction, a number of grid lines. We have 3 here. By default, I created similar things previously. So what you can do here, just to change the measurements so that it looks like we're doing a different thing. So or in other case, you can just leave it the way it is, so that I just explain whatever you see on the screen here, and that I think will help you, or you get that information right and correct. Now on my axis here, you can see we have X and Y and X axis. The Y is pointing up and the X is pointing to my right. So on X axis, the X axis will define my the span of my portal frame, and the Y will define the full length of my portal frame. So if you take a look on the grid here, you can see we have all the 2 axes in here. So one will define the span, the one will define the full length of my portal frame. Now let's come to y-axis. Under y-axis we have 11 grid lines. So these 11 grid lines defines the number of columns. So this 6 meter is the distance in between these columns. So if you add this 6 meter gives you a total length of this portal frame. So if you take a look here, we have 12 meters and we have 3 grid lines. So in between these 2 columns in here, in between these 2 grid lines, we have 12 meters, totaling to 24 meters, which will be the total span of our portal frame. So having this in place, just go ahead and click OK. So the moment you click OK, you'll be able to zoom in, zoom out, and at some point, if you're using AutoCAD, you'll not be able to zoom in completely to see whatever grid line you've created. So the shortcut is, if you're using AutoCAD, just double click, right click on your keyboard and scroll down to zoom. Click on zoom right here and right click once again and come to zoom extent. This will take you to a full view of our grid line. So another thing I want to show you here, right here, let me first of all just turn this like that, and I'll be able to see this in the best position. So if you take a look here, you can see we have some dimensions not positioned properly. So here we can apply AutoCAD tools to rectify this. So what you do, if you're in AutoCAD, just press D on your keyboard and enter. So the moment you press D and enter on your keyboard, you'll be prompted with this dimension style manager. And in here you can modify and rectify or customize how you want your dimension style to look like. So I'll come to modify here. Right here I'm using AutoCAD tools now. I'll come to text here, and I want to align this text to align itself with dimension line. So what I'm going to do, first of all, here I'm going to align with dimensions. So the moment I do that, you can see the preview of what we're trying to do. So I'm trying to I want to just to offset this or take this text slightly above this line with a particular or with a certain measurement. So I'll come to to vertical placement here. I'll click on that and click above. You can see it has moved slightly above that. So I can just go ahead and click OK and come here and set current and click OK. You'll see its response. But you can see it. We have so many decimal points here, and we want to get rid of that. So just go ahead and click D and click Enter on the keyboard and come back to modify. And the moment you do that, come to primary units right here and come to precisions here. Click this drop down arrow and pick. You don't need any decimal. Just click on that and click OK. And click OK. Set current and click close. We'll have our 6 meters intact and no decimal adjacent to it. So in here, we are going straight to setting the our portal frame levels. We'll start from 0 level to eve height to apex height. So let's go and find that tool under context modeling. In here, still we are under Parabuild modeling tab. Parabuild output. That one I'll show you next. And I think I've done a video similar to that slightly touching on Parabuild output tools. Now we are on Parabuild modeling tools, which will still dwell so much while you do so many presentation or tutorials on Parabuild. Now let me go to context modeling and try to set up my levels here. So I'll come to modify levels. I'll click on it. So this small dialog box will appear, and in here is where you set your or customize or define your levels of any particular building right here. So to define that, you click this plus sign here, click on it. So the moment you click on it, you'll be prompted with a small dialog box to give you a field where you will be able to type in the description of that particular height. So this particular height, I'm going to define this one as eve height. I'll just go ahead here and click and type it here and put eve height right there. So I'll go ahead and click OK. Now once I've done that, I'll come here and feed in that particular height I've defined here, and my eve height will be 7 meters high from zero level. Remember, we are on wild CS here, and my height is 7 meters. So the next one is my next height is apex height. I'll go to I'll type apex height right here. Apex height right here. And I'll go ahead and click OK. And under height field, I'll key in the exact height I want my apex height to offset right from 0 level. I'll give it 10 meters. 10 meters right there. I'll go ahead and click OK. So once I've done that, I'll be able to get those heights that I've defined by clicking on this context modeler. So inside here, I'll be able to get all those heights that I've defined right here by clicking in here or clicking on that and enable that or disable that. So if I come here and click this drop down arrow, I'll be able to see the heights that I was describing. So if I come to bottom end height here, I'll just retain this at wild CS or WCS right there. So let me first of all place my columns here. So how do I place my columns? I come at the bottom end here. If you mouse over this, you'll be able to see that description, multiple columns creation or multiple columns. If you mouse here, you can be able multiple beams, and if you mouse over this, you'll be able to see multiple pitched rafters. So we are going to use this, and we'll see how these are applied. Now I'm going to place my columns right here manually. So I'll click on this and just zoom close, and I want to place my first column right here. So I'll right click, I'll left click on my button on my mouse, and I will not hold. I just cover this intersection of this grid line and click on that particular spot, then right click. I'll be able to see a column already created. So I want to copy this on the other end. Another way, you can just select all these intersections, and the columns will be created inside these intersections. So I want just to copy this manually. I'll select on this column, right click and come to copy right here, and I want to pick it from the center there and take it to the opposite direction right here. I'll place it right there, right click and terminate that command. And now I want to place my rafter. I want to place a rafter in between these columns. So how do I do that? I'll come to this tool here, draw a pitched rafter. Let me try that, and let me just click on that, or come here and select on that, and that seemed not working for us. And let's try a different way. I'm going to select on that column and come all the way to this end and right click, and if I right click, you'll be able to see a rafter has been created. So if you want to see that clearly, what you can do, you just click this small house here in AutoCAD if you're using AutoCAD platform, and click that small house, and this will turn it to isometric view, and you can see this. We have these columns and rafter in place, constrained or defined within the parameters we keyed in while setting the levels for our portal frame. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to slightly change the view of this particular structure. So I'll come to view here. I'll come to view right here and pick on this drop down arrow and pick realistic, so that I can be able to see this clearly. So if you want to turn around or rotate your model, just press shift and hold your middle button of the mouse, and you'll be able to turn this slightly like that, or without any hiccup. Now let's go straight away and start creating connections for our haunches and apex, and also placing the base plates right away. So let me go back to Parabuild tools here by clicking the Parabuild modeling tool. So I'm going straight to start creating connections. The connection one is haunch here, and the apex and the base plate right here. Then we populate everything to the full length of this particular structure, or to the full length of the grid line. So in here, let me go ahead and pick on the haunch under connections. So I'll come to haunch here, just mouse over, and you'll be able to see the description right there. I'll click on the haunch right there. So once I've clicked on that, I'll be able to select the component I want to create. I want to connect, and I want to connect this particular component. I want to create a connection between this column and this rafter. Now I'll go ahead and select on the column, then go ahead and click on the rafter here. So the moment you click on the second component, you'll be prompted with this beam versus column dialog box. And inside here, you'll be able to pick on a particular connection or haunch connection you want to apply in between these two components. I'm going to just pick on the haunch profile and select on that, then go ahead and click OK. So the moment you click OK, you'll be able to see a connection created by default. Now it's upon you to customize this to match your particular type of connection. So now let me just press shift and hold my middle button on the mouse. I'll be able to turn this round. So this, if you take a keen look on this, you can see there's some little bit of incorrect, some connection is not correct. You can see the end plate is somehow shorter. It's now, and it is not going to full length of this haunch connection. Now let's first of all correct this or modify this. So I'm going to end plate here. If I wish, I can change the thickness of this end plate by either 16 or 16 or 20. I'll just leave it on 12 millimeter thick, and I'll come to far end here, and I want to change this this full length of this end plate to stretch all the way to connect with this haunch here. So I'll feed in here a particular measurement right here. I can feed here 710 here. 710 will make it move down right there, and 710 will go all the way. You can see some clashes, bolt going all the way, colliding with our haunch. So what we are going to do, we are going to change the bolting. We are going to adjust the bolting distances. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to pick on the bolts right there, and inside bolts here, I need 6 bolts on this section. Just type 6 on my keyboard right here and try to see how they arrange themselves. So just middle mouse and drag this slightly to a position you will be able to see clearly. So here we are, and we have 6 bolts in place, but not well positioned. Now we want to play around with these measurements so that we see these bolts spaced correctly. So what do we do? I'll feed in here 710. I can feed here 710 or 610. Let me feed here 610 right here, 610, and I'll go here and check that, and we'll be able to see these bolts have been positioned slightly correct. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to filling plate. I'll try to see whether it's correct. I'll just leave it in that position. I'll come to beam stiffeners. I'll just leave them where they are. If I come to column stiffeners, I'll just leave them where they are. It's okay, they are well positioned. Let me come to reinforcement. Under reinforcement, I want slightly this haunch to slightly move slightly by 900 right there. Let me put it to 900 or 1200. 1200 will be okay. Let me just click on that. You can see that already in place. So on the bolting, let me go ahead and adjust the bolting or change the measurements, because you can see some slightly collision there. So if I come here and try to change this, maybe give it, or I'll give it 60 and try to see how it adjusts itself. It is slightly okay. We can just leave it in that position, or just double click once again. And what we are going to do, we want to propagate this so that we don't repeat the same thing we've just done on this side to this end. So what we are going to do to make this come this end, we are going to click propagate. So this propagation will copy this same connection to the other end, to the opposite direction. So I'll go ahead and click propagate. So if I zoom out, you'll be able to see the same connection has been taken this far end, and that is how quick Parabuild can make, or how our Parabuild can make your work simpler. Now let me come this far end, and I want to create an apex connection here. So I'll just close this haunch connection and come to apex connection and click that drop down arrow, and connection section, I'll come to apex and pick these 2 components. I'll pick on this, right click and repeat the same. I'll select on this, then select on that component, and this will bring this small dialog box macro for apex creation. So the simple thing we are going to do, I'm going to pick on haunch, select on that, then click OK. Then apex haunch will be created. So we want to rotate this into a position that we'll be able to see it clearly. Press shift on your keyboard and hold your middle button on the mouse, and you'll be able to rotate. You'll be able to rotate this confidently without any hiccup. So we want to adjust these end plates slightly to protrude slightly up, and also we modify the length of these haunches. So to do this, just right click to bring a dialog box, and we'll go straight to reinforcement here. So under reinforcement, we want to define, we want to change the length of this haunch to 1200. Just fit here to 1200 right there. I'll go ahead and click OK. Just click or click elsewhere, and you will be able to see this adjusting to your specifications. So we want to add bolts here. Let me first of all hold my middle button mouse and drag it slightly to a position, and I'm able to see it clearly. So let me add some bolts here. So to add bolts, just come to bolts tab there, and I want 6 bolts in that position. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select right there, or select on any field. You'll be able to see a preview of the changes or modification you've just made. So let me just first of all turn it so that I'll be able to see whether can I proceed with adding more modifications, or I can just let it stop there. So let me press shift and hold my middle button on the mouse and be able to turn this. I'll be able to see the end plate slightly not done correctly. So I'll come to end plates right here. So under end plates field here, I'll click on this, then select on that. I'll prefix my dimension with the negative sign and feed in here 20 millimeter, and click OK. And click OK. But you can see if I change that, you can see my bolts is colliding with the with upper end of my rafter. So what do I need to change the bolt spacing? Of course, yes, I'll come to bolt spacing here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this. I'll just feed here 50 and come all the way here and feed 50 also, and see how this adjust themselves. It is correct, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to click close to close that section. So we're left with this connection. This is correct. So what we're going to do, we are going to populate this this portal frame along the length of our grid line. So let me just turn that round and put it into a position that I'll be able to select it correctly or accurately to the full length. So let me select everything here. I've selected everything there, but you can see my selection have included the grid line. So if I try to copy it, even the grid line will be copied along. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press shift and deselect what I don't want. I'll deselect what I don't want, and I've just seen something that we've not done. We've not placed our base plates. So let me just click escape to disable that. So I'll come back here. And the base plate, I'll click on the base plate right here. So the moment I click on the base plate, I'll select on the positions I want to place my base plates. I select on the column right there. So the moment I click on the column, I'll be prompted with these more options, where I more options and many types of base plates available. I'll pick on the first one right there and click OK. So the moment you click OK, it will place automatically at the bottom end of your column. So let me just turn this into a position that I'll be able to see whatever I'm trying to modify if it matches my description. Let me just turn that round and place in that position. So I'll right click to bring that dialog box. So I want to modify slightly these gusset plates and the base plate sizes. So in here, I'll go straight to bolts. Bolts I'll not touch in this particular case. I'm going to touch on the web reinforcement. I'll come to web reinforcement here, and I don't want this this chamfer. So this chamfer, I'll get rid of it by changing that to 0 and change that to 0. So if I change that to 0, you can see the changes are reflected immediately. So in here, this chamfer I'd change it to 80, and this length I'd change to 50 right there. So if I do that, you'll be able to see some changes in place. I'll feed 50 here. You can see the changes in place. So I'll go ahead to flange reinforcement, and I'll do the same to this chamfer. I'll get rid of that and get rid of that chamfer also. So I'll define this as 80 and define this as 50 millimeter right there. So once I've done that, you can see the changes taking effect immediately. So I'll go ahead and click close. So I have all this in place. So there's something I've just forgotten to do. Let me just double click on that to bring that dialog box. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click propagate to copy this base plate to this end, because I don't want to repeat the same thing in the opposite direction, because the connection type is the same and all the measurements are the same. So what I'm going to do, just click propagate, and I'll click propagate. So if we zoom out, we'll be able to see the connection has been copied this far end, and this is how simple Parabuild can make your work easy. Now I'll click close to terminate that. So let me press shift here and rotate this and place it in the position that when I make a selection, I'll be able to select actually and exactly what I want to pick and populate along the grid line. So let me just select everything I want to select or carry along. And if you take a look, I picked some things that I don't need to copy along. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press shift and deselect what I don't need. I don't need this. I don't need to copy that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to deselect what I don't need. So once I've done this, I just right click and come to copy. And I want to copy this from that position to that position, to that position, to that position, to that position, and to that position. And I'll place another one there. I'll place another one here, place another one there, place another one here, and place another one here finally. So I right click to terminate that copy command. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press shift once again to see and to turn this around and see how these have been positioned or have been placed. So this is how simple you can make your work easier by using these tools available under Parabuild modeling tab. And this is how quick it is to create a portal frame, and we'll move step by step in creating other components within this structure. That is bracing, that is purlins. We'll go step by step in creating those. So just stick along and you'll be able to get some more information and more on how to use Parabuild. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you're new and this is your first video to bump into, and don't forget to subscribe once again. Bye bye, and let's meet then. I'm Maurice Dimba. So let me just turn this slightly. You see what we've created. You can see the bottom end here, we have the base plate already in place. You can see that. If I turn it around like that, you can see. And if I come to apex haunch here, you can see whatever you've created. And if I come that end, you can see that. So let me switch to plan view. So in this particular case, we've finalized with this context modeler. We can get rid of it, and let's switch back to our wireframe. So this is how it looks. So let's switch back to top view. This is the top view, and let's just rotate this slightly, and this is how it looks. You can see the top end, and this is how you can see it. So thanks a lot, and bye once again, and let's meet then.